Two terrorists have been gunned down in an encounter in North Kashmir's Baramulla. The gunfight between the army and terrorists is going on. Encounter in Rashtriya Rifles camp in Baramulla, 46 Rashtriya Rifles camp. We understand that two BSF Jawans have also been injured in that attack. Army's quick reaction team is on the spot. The attack took place from two directions. The terrorists, the number could be anywhere between 4 to 6, attacked the camp in two groups. One group stormed near the gate of the camp. The other one tried to breach the wall of the camp. From what we understand is that all the terrorists have been engaged by the army outside the camp. None of them have been able to breach the camp. But these are sketchy details coming out because the operations are still on. Two terrorists, though, have been eliminated, is what we are getting to learn. Shujaul Haq is now joining us with more details. Shuja, take us through what you're picking up from the ground.
Well, Maha, even as we speak, the operation is still being carried out. However, we've just been able to, get in touch with few of the people out there, and they are saying that there seems to be a lull in the gunfight. But like you've seen this happening in many of these operations that have happened in Kashmir, there is intermittent lull, and it begins all over again after a point of time. So at this moment, we can only tell you that there is an operation going on, an encounter is on as we speak. The details are that at 10:30, the attack took place on this camp of Rashtriya Rifles in Baramula. It is very near to the civilian population. There is a stadium right next to the camp, and there is a small BSF unit also which is inside this camp. So the attack has happened from two sides. Apparently, the attackers have divided themselves into two sets. One attacked directly, from the front gate of the camp, which unconfirmed reports suggest was foiled, and two of the attackers were killed there. There is no official confirmation on that. Even as we speak, we are given to understand that there are 3 BSF Jawans who have been injured. There are some army Jawans also who have sustained injuries. No casualties being reported from them.
Okay.
We are trying to speak to more people in the army, but they are saying that we should wait before they get the real confirmation from the ground.
Ankit, any clarity on whether the terrorists were able to breach the 46 RR camp, or were they all engaged in the gun battle outside the camp?
Well, as of now, no confirmation on that, but what we have been told is that one group, there was some sort of commotion heard inside the camp, whether it was because the terrorists were able to climb the wall and go inside, or whether it was, of course, you can understand the kind of commotion that will happen once the camp was under attack. But as of now, what local sources are saying is that for the last 5 to 10 minutes, there is a lull, and as of now, there is no gunshots that are being heard. So either the terrorists have been eliminated, or they are trying to regroup. But what we have been told is that the quick reaction teams and the other teams of the army are, as of now, trying to go. They are trying to have started the combing operation to neutralize if there are remaining terrorists.
Rahul Kaval is also joining us with a perspective on this ongoing operation in Baramulla. Rahul, Ankit says that there's been a lull in the gunfight for around 10 minutes now. Can you read anything into that? Is this a tactical lull? What could it be?
I bet that we don't do ball-by-ball commentary of the operation, that we leave it to the armed forces to neutralize these terrorists who have attacked an Indian army and a BSF station. And I think that's the word that all official sources are giving as well. Just give the boys on the ground the operational freedom to do what they're trained to do and what they've trained their whole life to do. Neutralize these terrorists. That is something that will happen. We need to look, Maha, by stepping back at the big picture. This is something which was expected. This is along anticipated lines. This is something that has been factored into the war games that the Indian security establishment had been carrying out ever since the surgical strikes across in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. There has been constant radio chatter coming from various communication centers in POK asking terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir to quickly strike back, to retaliate, to try and avenge what happened across the line of control. So this is something that was entirely along expected lines, and in the 6 scenarios that had been drawn out, by India's security establishment, an attack on a military installation inside Jammu and Kashmir was considered the most likely scenario, and that is exactly what's happened. We're also being told that in apparently the same area of Baramulla, about a month or so ago, a few weeks ago, there was a grenade attack, and the terrorists at that time had managed to get away. They were hiding in the forest outside of Baramulla. There is a possibility that it's the same group of terrorists that are involved, but given that we're close to midnight, there's no way of knowing that for certain.
Yes.
But this is not going to be the only such attack. Remember, one senior, very senior official in the government told me, what we've started is a new chapter. So far, India and Pakistan were caught in this matrix of predictability. Pakistan would attack us, India would make noises condemning their attack, try and raise the issue diplomatically, and then not do anything about it.
Okay.
With our attacks across the Pakistan-occupied Kashmir LOC, what happened is we've introduced a certain element of uncertainty into that matrix. Now Pakistan can strike us, we will take down those terrorists, but Pakistan doesn't know what the response from India will be, and that is a whole new ball game. This is a whole new paradigm. It's a tectonic shift in the way we view our security, in the way that we view Pakistan, and the way that we view these terrorist attacks. So I think it needs to be seen in that larger context. We've been saying for the past 72 hours in India today, just because there are denials coming from Pakistan, just because Pakistan seems to be in total shock and not accepting that there's been a strike across the LOC, don't think that nothing will happen. Things will happen. This is just the first. There will be more. And I think that's where the government also feels, and that message is going out, that don't give up just because there's an attack. Don't start saying, the whole hawkish policy doesn't work, or this was a big mistake by Doval and Modi. The nation needs to stay united as one for the long haul. That is most important. The new journey has begun. We've seen a certain unity of purpose in the last 72 hours. Despite attacks of this nature, that same unity of purpose needs to continue for the strategy to start showing effects over the medium to long term.
Ashraf Wani is also joining us. Let's get in more details that are emerging. Ashraf, are security forces at the moment sharing any more details?
Now, as Ankit was mentioning, that there is a lull in the ongoing firing in and outside the 46 Rashtriya Rifles camp in Baramula. So far, last 20 minutes, we have not heard any kind of gunshot in the premises and in the area. That means either the terrorists who are believed, two of them may have infiltrated inside the BSF camp. They may be hiding somewhere, and now the search for them and to kill them, that operation might be initiated by the security forces there. And also some additional groups, particularly the Special Operations Group personnel, had been rushed to the site so that they could put a cordon in whole area so that any terrorist could not flee from the spot if anyone is involved there or anyone is outside there. Because Jammu and Kashmir Police Operation Group is very experienced with these operations, and they are aware of the areas and of the tracks and of the whole vicinity. That is why they have been called in, and CRPF is also helping them. So as another cordon ring has been put in place that was just initiated after the first firing in the camp. Okay. So far, what reports we are getting, 3 army Jawans and 3 BSF Jawans are injured. That all the 6 Jawans got injured in the first firefight, because as I told you that on the main gate of 46 Rashtriya Rifles, number of grenades were thrown by the militants, which exploded near the gate. Always presence of the security guards on the main gate of any army camp. In that grenade blast, 3 Jawans got injured who had been taken for the treatment from the spot, and then the protection teams had been brought into action inside the camp, outside the camp, and so far the good news is that for the last 20 minutes there is not any exchange of fire. Either the terrorists, which is being said by sources, had been killed outside the gate, 2 of them, and also the other 2, which are believed have entered into the BSF camp, they might have been also killed. But so far, nothing has been confirmed from the army officially, and probably it may take some time, and within half an hour or the things and picture will be clear.
Ashraf, if you can tell us whether there is any clarity on whether the terrorists were able to breach the camp, or whether this encounter is going on the periphery.
What the sources say, that it is a new tactic which has been adopted by terrorists in this suicide attack. It was a suicide attack, it is sure, because the quantum of weapon with the terrorists and the time of engagement with the security forces clearly indicates that it is a squad of attackers, or it is what we can say a fidayeen group. And also they have divided the group into two sections. One section tried to penetrate from the main gate, or their intention was to engage or to divert the attention of the security forces there towards the main gate. They lobbed grenades towards the main gate, and then they were engaged there in the firing from security forces. Then another group, meanwhile, tried to penetrate inside a nearby BSF camp, which is just hardly few meters away from the 46 Rashtriya Rifles headquarters.
Okay.
It is believed that probably those who may have managed to enter in, and as there was a lot of fire, lot of exchange of fire, almost all going for 1.5 over there. That is a long duration of time in such kind of operations or kind of gun battle. But now there is not any exchange of fire either on the gate of 46 Rashtriya Rifles nor inside the BSF camp. That means this the fire has stopped. Either all the terrorists had been neutralized, or may have managed to escape from the spot, or they may be hiding inside any area. There is a lot of bush, lot of forest area inside the camp, around the camp. So the things will be clear when the operation is closed off. Probably it may take some time.
Ashraf, stay on with us. Major General AJB Jenny is also joining us on the phone line for his perspective on this ongoing encounter in Baramula. Major General Jenny, what do you read of this attack that we are seeing, which looks like a fidayeen attack on the camp? Though what we understand is that the terrorists were not able to breach the camp. At least that is the sketchy initial reports that we're getting.
Mahi, I have been following this report ever since 10:30, since this incident has started.
Yes.
Answering your first question as to why they have not been able to breach the outer perimeter of the camp, it is very obvious, because after the LOC surgical strike that we carried out, the element of security and the element of alertness and the element of readiness has been very, very high.
Yes.
In almost every single unit, every single establishment, particularly in the valley. So to expect 4 to 6 people to enter into a camp and be able to do a strike like they did in Uri would have meant a blotch on our face. So I don't think that was possible, and that is why these guys have not been able to enter the camp. Now, as far as fidayeen and who they are and from where they have come, well, let me say that this was expected, because Pakistan, being a very irrational state, and with the military in total control across the border, this would have been expected. The fact that they did not do it over the last 2-3 days is a different matter. But it was expected that this kind of a thing can happen anywhere, either on the LOC or in the valley or in the hinterland of the country. Particularly so in the context of the puja season, when Diwali and Dasera are on, and there are a large number of soft targets all over. The pandals and the Ram Leelas and the malls and the shopping centers are all gaga at the moment, and these are very soft targets. So this was expected. The fact that it has happened in the valley, it is there right before us. Who could these people be? Who could these people be? Have they infiltrated just tonight or yesterday night, or have they always been there? Well, let me put you two perspectives. Firstly, at any one point of time in the valley, 50 to 100 to 200 of these insurgents are always there. You can only spot them once they are with their weapons and once they are moving around doing actions like these. Otherwise, they merge with the civilian population, they merge with the local villagers, they merge into the jungles, and you are not able to get them. Because and let me say that there are supporters and those people who may be harboring them and supporting them. So at any one point of time, there are a handful of these guys roaming around in the valley. So these could be the sleeper cells, what we call the sleeper cells. They sleep around. These are the cells, Pakistani cells, operated by the handlers of the ISI, but they can be the Jaish-e-Mohammed, they could be the Mujahideen, they could be any of those militants.
So possibly one of the sleeper cells activated there. Let me also get in a word from Defence Analyst Sushant Sareen. Mr. Sareen, would you agree with what Major General Jenny is saying about his assessment of who these terrorists could be? Perhaps sleeper cells activated?
Well, largely, I think I would agree with what the general is saying, except for the fact that when he says that the Pakistanis are irrational, I don't think they're irrational. I think, and as he himself said, this kind of an attack was expected after what has happened day before night from the Indian side or 3 days back. So this kind of a thing was expected and people were braced for this kind of an attack. Of course, there were other scenarios which were being painted, but this seemed to be the most plausible one because it gives the Pakistanis a certain plausible deniability, and it might have taken them a couple of days to actually activate some of those cells. Because if you remember, there have been reports that over the last 2 months, many infiltration attempts have been made. Some of these guys might have actually managed to get through. So probably it's one of those guys, or maybe some sleeper cell which is already in the valley. But having said that, if they haven't managed to breach the outer cordon of the RR brigade,
Yes.
the RR units, then I think that's pretty creditable on the Indian side. That means that the forces were pretty alert.
Yes.
So I think that is something which needs to be welcomed. The other thing is that this poses us now with a counter challenge, because having responded to what Uri happened, I don't know whether the government is now going to say, okay, fine, let this pass, or there will be a tit for tat on this attack. So then that means that we are going to go further up the escalation ladder. And maybe there is a chance that the government might decide that it does have to respond and it cannot, pull back anymore.
Sushant Sareen and Major General Jenny are going to stay with us, but Shujaul Haq has some updates. Shuja, take us through what you have at the moment.
Well, Maha, at this point in time, once again, we've been told that the operation is very much on. However, there is an update on what has been happening on the ground. Sources in the police are suggesting that one BSF Jawan who was injured, may have succumbed to his injuries. So that is the information that we are getting. There are 2 other Jawans who are still injured. They're also given to understand that 3 army Jawans have also sustained injuries. There are reports, but totally unconfirmed so far, coming in that 2 militants have been killed in it. There is also information that there's a brief lull in the gunfight at this time, but this cannot be, construed that the operation is over, because we've seen in many such operations that after a brief lull in the gunfight, it resumes again. We'll only be able to, confirm the status of the operation after the people who are on the ground or who are on the job, tell us that it is over. So at this point of time, the operation on gunfight is not happened for past 10 minutes, but this bit of information that one BSF Jawan may have succumbed to his injuries, 2 militants may have been killed.
One Jawan martyred in that encounter that is going on in Baramula. Meanwhile, DG BSF has spoken with Home Minister Rajnath Singh. Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu is joining us with more details. Kamal, what was the conversation between the two? What did DG BSF tell the Home Minister?
Maha, remember 40 battalion of BSF is co-located with 46 RR, and that is when the militant attack took place.
Yes.
2 of BSF Jawans, one we've been told may have been martyred. There's no official confirmation of that, but that's what we're getting to hear from our sources. The other part is obviously about the security situation. Remember, there was a security review done by the Home Minister himself of the BSF. And this is 14 days after the Uri encounter. This terror attack has taken place after the surgical strikes done by India. So this is significant that the terrorists continue, and obviously this is going to be there is going to be a rebuttal. So measure by measure, there is going to be a response. Though we've been told by our sources that the firing is continued. That there is heavy firing taking place. They'll really have to know as to what the situation of the Jawans is, because currently there's a firefight which is going on.
All right, Kamal, I'll request you to stay on with us, getting us more inputs, but let's connect with defense expert Colonel Anil Kaul at the moment. Colonel Kaul, what do you see or read from this kind of attack that we are seeing right after the surgical strikes?
Now we confirm that since there has been a retaliation, our surgical strike did take place. Because if there was a denial that it never took place, there was no need for this retaliation.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
we are
Yes.
certain that the physical strike did take place. Secondly, if you notice that this is now shifted from the army to a paramilitary force. So they're possibly trying the testing the waters of the security apparatus at a possibly a lower level. Thirdly, that this I had mentioned earlier when I was asked what are the possibilities of retaliation. One of the possibilities with all the entire area being so heavily defended right now and everybody on red alert, this has to be the sleeper cells. And the main thing that I feel we must try and do is to capture one of these chaps alive.
Ashraf Wani is joining us with more details. Ashraf, what are you picking up from the ground at the moment? All right, we have lost our connection there. Major General G.D. Bakshi is also joining us on the phone line, sir. You know, at the moment, very sketchy details still coming in, but they suggest that 2 terrorists have been gunned down. Although we also know that the attack took place from 2 different sides, but considering that this was expected as a retaliatory strike after the surgical strikes, do you think that having cordoned off this area or the terrorists not having been able to breach the 46 Rashtriya Rifles camp was in itself some sort of success?
Hello?
Major General Bakshi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You see, we were anticipating that since we had struck the terrorist target, the retaliation would come in the form of these jihadi tanveens trying to mount attacks across the LC primarily. And they have once again targeted the area of Baramula, which is a little in depth from Uri. Apparently, they have been able to locate certain routes of infiltration in this area, which they seem to be exploiting either repeatedly or they are using the terrorists which are already inside J&K to launch these kind of so-called retaliatory attacks. The fact of the matter is that our troops are on red alert. These people were not permitted to breach the perimeter.
Yes.
They have been engaged. 2, I understand, have already been killed. And, mopping up operations are on to try and gun the others down and try and even apprehend one of them so that we can then unravel the network or the sleeper cell, if any, has been engaged. I don't think there's anything to panic about because this is a very expected reaction. As of now, it has been a fairly damn squib because they have not been able to inflict damage of any consequence. They were detected quite early on and they were engaged.
Okay.
They have hit RR battalion, which is a rather wrong target for them to try and engage because these are hardened troops who have been in CI for so many years.
Yes.
So it is not a administrative camp or a base camp or something of this sort. It is a regular unit headquarters. And that unit headquarters has given a good account of itself. It's prevented a penetration.
Okay.
It has already eliminated 2 of the terrorists and I suppose as 3 to 4 is the estimate of the number of attackers who have, I think, apparently tried standoff fire from both the sides when they were not able to breach the fence. In that there are some reports indicating that some BSF boys have been wounded, one of whom they are now saying is now unfortunately martyred.
Major General Bakshi, stay on with us. We're getting some more details. Gaurav Sawant is joining us with more updates. Gaurav, what more can you tell us at the moment?
So the latest we are hearing at this point of time, Maha, is that the Union Home Minister has been apprised of all the details and he's had a conversation with the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval because this was expected, a terror attack, as G.D. Bakshi was also telling us, on a military unit at the LC or close to the LC. One of the garrisons was, there was an apprehension that this could happen after India's surgical strike. But what is extremely critical is to know after the immediate response of firefight here, what is India's larger response? From what my sources are telling me, there was an intelligence alert about a simultaneous attack by terrorists at multiple security units. So, terrorists and their handlers in Pakistan, especially the Pakistan Army and Deep State Maha, they are horrified. They were really taken aback after India's surgical strike killed more than 50 of their strategic assets, terrorists and their handlers, and posts where they were located. So that is why it's a desperate attempt to hit back. That was the pressure. That was the pressure on the wireless chatter, and that is why this, the conversation that is happening is that how does India respond to this? The immediate firefight and teaching a state sponsor of terror, a lesson that it'll understand.
Jugal is also joining us with more details. Jugal, what more information are you picking up from Baramulla?
Well, Maha, the information that we have is that one BSF personnel has been killed in the incident, two remain injured. The firefighting is going on intermittently. What we've been able to piece together through our sources is that there was a group of 4 terrorists or so is believed now, because the situation is still quite fluid, and things are changing as we speak. But what people have been able to ascertain and tell us is that there were in all likelihood 4 terrorists. 2 of them fired from the entrance so as to get the forces to react, and the other 2 in a separate bid tried to enter from one of the rear points or one of the side points where they thought that the forces will not be then concentrating because the entry is under fire. But what we can, of course, tell our viewers is that the forces have been, in fact, successful in keeping the terrorists out. The firing, I'm speaking to locals as well as those in authority, are telling us that the firing is going on intermittently. So, unfortunately, there's been a loss of a BSF personnel's life. In this, 2 of them remain injured, and under no circumstances can it be called that the encounter has subsided or has ended. Also, Maha, very importantly, if I can quickly add, the Army and the intelligence agencies' current appreciation is that there are about 409 terrorists active in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, a large majority, of course, in the valley where the Baramulla area is. And it's absolutely right that the so-called B team of Pakistan, which is what the intelligence agencies call these terrorists, were likely to act, and this is being seen in exactly that context.
All right, let me also go across now to P.K. Mishra, former ADG BSF. So how would you read the situation that is the encounter still ongoing in Baramulla at the moment, where one BSF Jawan has been martyred, 2 terrorists though have also been gunned down?
Yes, the information and the intelligence was there that they are going to strike, and it is more or less by Hafiz Saeed and ISI Riyaj Akhtar. They have acted as they promised, and more or less we are having a lot of sleeper cells and the militants around in Baramulla, and they have struck in 46 RR camp. Multiple about 4 terrorists, they tried to penetrate into 46 RR camp, and they fired on the sentry, and in fact, the BSF personnel were also guarding it. So one of the BSF person is dead and 2 of them are injured, but they have shut down 2 terrorists also. So this information was there, and they are supposed to strike because Rahil Sharif is going to retire in November. He could not take the surgical attack which was done by Indian Army.
Yes.
That has gone against Rahil Sharif, and he wanted to teach Indian Army a lesson. And from the beginning, they were trying to find out such loopholes in Indian Army and BSF in the border areas and the soft targets where they can strike. And this is in fact done by Lashkar-e-Toiba and Hafiz Saeed's men and Salahuddin's men in Baramulla area and very close to the border band. It has done on our 46 RR camp, and of course the intelligence was there, and we are also striking them back, but it's a good thing that 2 of the terrorists have been shot down.
Yes.
But definitely in the beginning when you were striking, definitely the target, to take the target, easy those were there in the sentry, but they were unable to penetrate into the camp.
Yes.
That's a very good thing, because both BSF and Army, they were quite alert, and perhaps they are not entered the Army camp and RR camp, and the firing is still going on. We hope so that we will take the revenge tonight itself.
Let me go back to Gaurav Sawant, getting us more inputs on that. Gaurav, what is the assessment of the security forces? I understand that the situation is fluid at this point, but considering that, in a brief period from the surgical strikes to now that this attack has taken place, does it indicate that these are sleeper cells that have been activated rather than fresh terrorists infiltrating across the LOC?
Maha, the information that was there ever since the surgical strike was increased chatter from across the line of control on wireless or other means, and the apprehension was Pakistanis were asking their terrorists who were already here. You'd recall, Maha, India Today was the first channel to break the story, not only about the terror strike in Poonch and Uri, but also the fact that another group of terrorists had succeeded in infiltrating, evading the first tier, and that they were lying in wait. They were, trying to get to Srinagar and launch a bigger attack. Now, we still do not know whether it's that same terror group that had infiltrated and was lying low that has been activated to strike. But from what one of my sources was just telling me, apparently these terrorists were in an emergency vehicle, some kind of a hospital van or an ambulance or some kind of a vehicle that is used by emergency services, and they were wrecking the area very close to the BSF camp, the army camp. Now, this is a garrison town, so there is massive security forces deployment, and that's when apparently they split up. One went from the riverside. There is also a nala that flows. They went towards the riverside to try and attack from there. Okay. The other, as diversionary tactics, attacked the main gate. The ones who attacked the main gate also hurled grenades at the army camp and the BSF camp. That is where apparently there have been some casualties. But the army was alert. They immediately neutralized the ones at the gate. And apparently the firefight we are told that is still on, and that locals are hearing and reporting to the police, is the one that's happening at the rear side of this battalion location, because there the security is a little not as strong as on the gate, but the army was alert and the engagement, we are told, is still on.
Gaurav, also help us understand that in between there was a lull in firing. Now, are we getting information that the encounter is over perhaps, or was this some tactical lull?
This could well have been a tactical lull. We will know more details only tomorrow morning.
Yes.
But in the past, there have been several instances, Maha, where terrorists fire and then they lie low, hoping that the security forces would come closer for mopping up operations. And as the security forces come closer, because usually the security forces close in from multiple sides, so whichever side the terrorist thinks he can strike, after lying low, the terrorists fire again. But now there is a very effective drill that security forces follow, and they hurl grenades first, even at the body of terrorists, to ensure that terrorists are killed. And even if they see a body lying there, standard operating procedure, you pump in a couple of bullets into the corpse and then approach it. And usually there is very stern action that is taken against security forces if they violate the standard operating procedure, because there have been instances in the past, and one such incident that had taken place more than a decade ago, where the army declared an operation closed. They thought one terrorist was dead. When top commanders reached there, the terrorist came out of the undergrowth and he opened fire, and there were casualties that senior officers also suffered. So now the drills are very clear. It just remains to be seen whether they are being followed to the T.
Also, Gaurav, can you take us through the information that is coming in at the moment, because we understand that there has been one casualty that the country has faced, one BSF Jawan martyred, 2 terrorists though have been gunned down. Now, were these terrorists the ones who were trying to storm the camp through the gate? What details do we have?
Apparently, so we will still have to wait for more details. Now, this encounter has taken place, and that shows the desperation of these terrorists. This encounter took place in the heart of Baramula town, and this is a heavily fortified garrison town where you have a massive army formation deployed for the North Kashmir counter-infiltration grid. This is not this is a force which is more a grid protection, a grid strengthening force that is deployed here, and these are very battle-hardened foreign troops. The BSF, of course, is for protection more of the town, and of course some pickets at the border, and then you have CRPF and the JNK police for internal security. So this is that heavily fortified town, and in this town, when terrorists are striking, again it just shows how desperate these terrorists are. And for the security forces and for a nation, one thing we need to understand: there are terrorists in JNK. They are with weapons. There will be encounters, but the biggest challenge for security forces is, one, to ensure they don't enter towns, and two, these terrorists are neutralized before they can either kill security forces or civilians.
All right, Ashraf is joining us with more details on the phone line. Ashraf, what are you learning at the moment?
Basically, the operation is on. There was some kind of lull in the fighting for last more than half hour, when there is not any exchange of fire. But still, as Gaurav was mentioning, it is the night time. Any kind of picture will be clear tomorrow early morning. Basically, I just spoke one of the police officers who is the part of this operation. He clearly said that they are not sitting in the near ring of the operation. Basically, it is the night time. Any kind of movement can be suspicious, whether that is of security force outside the camp or of any militant. That is why very high precautions are being taken. So it can be a tactic of the militants that they are keeping themselves mum so that some security forces reach to them. It is not still clear whether there is any terrorist inside a camp either of army or of BSF. But so far what the sources have revealed that 6 to 8 terrorists may be involved in the attack. As initially we reported that the groups it is a Fidain attack which got split in groups. One group tried to attack the 46R Rashtriya Rifles battalion headquarters from main gate. There was a high security on the gate, particularly after the Uri terror attack. And then when they lobbed the grenades towards the main gate, it may be their intention to just to divert the attention of whole security premium towards the main gate. And another group meanwhile tried to enter from another side, and that was the BSF base there near to that 46 Rashtriya Rifles camp. Now operation is still going on. The barrack commandos are also brought into the action, and also already there are high and rapid action teams around this security compartment, all in the Baramula. They are taking up the operation bit by bit, and probably after some time, when police officers as well as the senior army officers will be able to reach the spot and things will be clear.
All right, we're getting news that the army has tweeted saying the situation has been contained and is under control. PK Mishra, former ADG BSF, is also with us on the phone line. Sir, does this tweet indicate that the encounter is over, or does it indicate that the situation has been brought under control but the operations still continue?
Yes, it happened at 10:30 at 22:30 hours at night when 46 RR camp was attacked by Fidains. In fact, it is by Lashkar-e-Toiba and Hafiz group, both mixed, including Hizbul Mujahideen and their sleeper cells, those who are already available inside Baramula. Baramula is very close to Uri sector where Uri attack took place, and in fact we are having a lot of sleeper cells of Jais Muhammad and HM. Both are available in Baramula. So they have contacted them. In fact, in one list they have contacted their sleeper cells to remain active and to take the revenge of surgical attack of Indian Army in those sectors earlier, which was done by Indian Army. So they attacked 46 RR headquarters gate, and they were in a strength of 4 to 6.
Right.
And of course 2 were shut down, and they were able in the first attack they could kill a BSF person, and 2 RR Jawans and 2 BSF Jawans, they were injured. So this, in fact, though it is now a lull is going on, but it is night time. So for coming out and to have an operation, it is very difficult, because if you are sending more troops, you will get more casualty from them. So army is very tactful. They will do their best in the morning, but now there is a lull, and it is more or less done by the Fidains only.
Okay. Gaurav Sawant has more details coming in. Gaurav, the army has tweeted. So what do we understand or make out from that tweet?
So again, the situation has been contained means that wherever these terrorists may be, either they've been killed like the ones at the gate, or they've been holed up in one place where they cannot escape. Now it would be suicidal for the army to move in for the kill immediately, because in the cover of darkness you could end up buying casualties. So what the army does is you surround the area, you light up the area to ensure that terrorists cannot escape, but then you lie you lie in wait, and at first light you strike again, because then terrorists cannot escape. Once terrorists have been contained, it's only a matter of time that terrorists are killed. It doesn't matter whether terrorists are killed in 1 hour, 2 hours, 12 hours, 14 hours, 24 hours, or maybe 48 hours. That is not important. The main thing for the army, and that's the message that top commanders I was speaking to told me, that's the message for the army at every situation. It does not matter whether an operation takes 1 day or 10 days. Terrorists should be killed, and there should be no own casualties, no casualties to Indian Army or BSF troops, as far as possible. So if the situation is contained, it means perhaps the terrorists are holed up in one area, they've been contained there, and they'll be brought down as and when the army deems it fit.
Gaurav, what more details are you picking up then from Baramulla at this stage?
Just a short while back when I spoke to my sources in the Northern Command, they were saying that it appears that 2 terrorists are down. Now, unless they've physically gone and identified the dead bodies, they do not say that terrorists have been killed. As of now, they're saying that those terrorists are down and may not pose a threat to the security forces. 2 terrorists down, there are more. They're not putting a number, whether it's 2 or 4. There's speculative inputs that keep coming in. So, and these terrorists have also, as this army tweet also indicates, and which is what sources also said, they've also been contained. But till some time back, the firefight was still on. So perhaps from the location where these terrorists have been contained, like you'd recall in the incident in Punch, the terrorists had been contained inside a building. They were not a threat. They could not roam around freely, and the army then neutralized them inside that building. It took time, but there were no own casualties. Unfortunately, in Uri, it's the terrorists who had a free run of the place, and that is why the casualties were much higher. So now in Baramulla, the army is saying that these terrorists have been contained. It seems to indicate that these terrorists are holed up in any one area. The army may have succeeded in surrounding that area and will bring them down perhaps at first light.
Gaurav, let's quickly tell our viewers that the visuals they are seeing on their televisions are the first visuals coming in from Baramulla, but of course these visuals are delayed by unspecified time, keeping the secrecy of the operations and how they are being conducted there in Baramulla confined to the army and the security forces who know best how to tackle the situation at this point. But these visuals are coming in from Baramulla at the moment, where operations are still on. Army says it is under control and is confined at the moment to some limited areas, as Gaurav was trying to help us understand. But Gaurav, coming back to you, one casualty that we've suffered, one BSF Jawan being martyred, and what we also understand is that 2 terrorists, as you were saying, reports not confirmed yet, situation is fluid, that 2 terrorists may have been gunned down, those who were trying to storm from the front through the gate. Now, the terrorists were split into 2 groups, I understand. Gaurav, do we know specifically from which side the other group was trying to attack?
Maha, one of the officers I spoke to seemed to indicate that these terrorists, were in an emergency vehicle. It appears to be an ambulance. It could have been an ambulance or some kind of a hospital vehicle, which could ply, even though there are restrictions in place for vehicular movement, and especially at night. But the fact that it was roaming around or moving around looking for a weak target to strike, it could well be, and at the moment this could well be conjecture that these terrorists thought that they could strike at 46 RR's location. They thought that they will succeed, or this was a part of an elaborate plan that 2 terrorists hit the gate, perhaps hoping that the entire focus will shift on the gate, and then others would try to enter from the rear. Now the rear apparently has some kind of a rivulet or a nala that's flowing in that area, and while there is a barbed wire fence and it is manned, terrorists thought they could try and sneak in from there, either creating diversionary tactics or resorting to firing or lobbing grenades. All of that will be clearer tomorrow. But terrorists did try to sneak in from there or storm in from there. The ones at the gate were neutralized. The ones in the rear also apparently contained at any one location. Whether they were contained once they'd already entered or they were contained at some other location, because that clarity is still not there, because the troops on ground are firefighting. They're reporting to their higher headquarters, and then information that's filtering out even further is still extremely sketchy. But let's perhaps wait and watch. But what we really need to be aware, that the army and the security forces need to be aware, is Pakistan is asking terrorists and its proxies to strike at multiple units of security forces simultaneously. So an attack at Uri, perhaps Baramulla or Srinagar or Anantnag or some other location north or south of Kashmir could take place simultaneously or one after the other. That's their aim, and there is thinking behind this, that now once you do that, the security forces are on the defensive, and their offensive operations against terrorists and their proxies then come to a standstill. So it remains to be seen what are the orders that come from Rajnath Singh and Ajit Doval for the security forces.
All right, so Army has tweeted that the situation is contained and under control. Rahul Kaval is also joining us with more information. Rahul, take us through the latest that you've picked up.
So, Maha, we're learning that police sources in Baramula that this was apparently a foiled terror operation. They're saying that the terrorists could achieve their aim of entering into the BSF and the Army Rashtra Rifle camp, and in that sense, the terror operation on the part of the terrorists was successfully foiled by the Indian Armed Forces. The Jawans who've been injured are being rushed to base hospital in Srinagar, which is the biggest hospital in the vicinity. We're also being told that one BSF Jawan is unfortunately being martyred. We're seeing the first set of images from right outside the Baramulla RNR base. Remember, now we've heard helicopter gunships also being brought into service, Special Forces commandos being rushed over there. But essentially all of that was required because the RNR troops that were deployed on the ground along with the BSF troops, they were able to neutralize these terrorists. 2 terrorists we have been told have been vanquished in this operation. And I think, we speak to some government officials, the message is quite clear. This is a long expected line. This is not something that should come as a shock or a surprise to anyone. This is quite a long expected line. This is not the only attack. You just heard Bharat say as well. There is chatter about how terrorists who are in Jammu and Kashmir are under immense pressure from communication centers across the LOC to try and mount multiple attacks, audacious attacks, spectacular attacks to try and avenge what the Indian Army did. So the Indian Army at this time, along with the BSF, the CRPF, the heightened state of alert, and the government essentially saying, stay calm, stay cool. The Army's put out its first official word saying that the situation has been contained, which for all practical purposes, I mean, they won't obviously go out and say the operation is over, because you really need to take stock, go in, see whether terrorists are dead, but for all practical purposes, that essentially means that they hope that there won't be any more action tonight.
Ashraf is also joining us with more details. Ashraf, from the tweet that the Army has put out, situation contained and under control, do we understand then that all the terrorists have been gunned down? What are you learning?
Maha, basically, it is not under control now. Just a few minutes back, main firing has started around the camp. That suggests probably any number of these suicide squad has managed to enter inside the perimeter of the BSF camp. What our sources are revealing that, again, just a few minutes back, again, heavy exchange of fire started inside the camp. That gives it the clear signal that probably any militant of this squad is still hiding inside a BSF camp. There was almost a lull for 40 minutes. There was not exchange of any fire when the forces tried to search in the area and around. Then abruptly there was again exchange of fire. That means that clearly indicates probably there is some member of that terror group inside the camp who was busy with that firing. Reports are not still clear because, as I earlier said, that the police party, which has put the outfit in whole area, is not still able to reach the camp, and they are not able to enter inside the camp. Basically, to think that in the night it is very tough for security forces inside the camp to identify whether it is a security force or any terrorist, because still there may be terrorists around or inside the camp or whom it is still looked on, and probably early in the morning when first light will come, then things and picture will be clear. As far as the casualties are concerned, now it is confirmed that one Jawan has martyred in this suicide attack, and 2 Jawans of BSF, 3 Jawans of Army are injured. They have been taken for the treatment to nearby hospital, some inside the camp, some outside the camp. But there is a lot of chaos because after the Uri attack, there was a lot of presence of security forces, and in this situation there is a very more chances of getting some kind of friendly fire engagement between forces and forces, because some are new, some are old. So each and every step in this operation is taken high precaution with high CMOs and other necessities. Why the time is being taken to get the clear picture. But so far, wherever the Army and BSF Jawans are deployed, they have earlier instructions that they should be alert and keep vigil of the movement around them. So far, that kind of procedure is being adopted inside and outside the 46 Rashtriya Rifle Camp and BSF camp.
All right. Let's get in some more information from Gaurav Sawant. Gaurav, what more information are you picking up from what Ashraf suggests is that the encounter is still on, that the operations are not over?
The operations could well continue till tomorrow, because it would be rather stupid to kind of go in at night where you can't see much. From what army sources were telling us some time back was that these terrorists have been contained. Terrorists or terrorists, we still do not know. They've been contained in one area. There are times when the army fires in one direction to draw fire just to know where terrorists are, and terrorists could also be changing their position. So the effort is to ensure that terrorists don't run away from one area wherever they may have been contained, and then at first light, when there is more clarity, when there are more forces, when you also have access to more UAVs and aircraft and helicopters, whatever may be required, then to take these terrorists down. But it's the bigger picture, because these terrorists will be neutralized. It's the bigger picture which is a cause for concern, and where both intelligence agencies and army would need to operate in tandem. Security forces is the sleeper cells in the valley. It's very difficult for terrorists to have just come across from across the line of control so suddenly, 3 days after the surgical strike. This could well be the sleeper cells who are already there, and how many more such cells are there who need to be neutralized before they are activated will be the big challenge for the army, the police and the intelligence agencies.